What up? What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of 94 Feet with Coach JT. Do me a favor, as always, you guys hit that like button, subscribe, leave some comments in the podcast. Hey, hit the website, 94feetwithcoachjt.com, up right now. Appreciate all the support. There are the listeners. Man, I see my subscribers going up. I see the comments coming in. I appreciate you guys for tapping in. As man, we're going on season 2. Episode 18 and 19 is on the way, man. So just be prepared for it, man. Again, thank y'all for the support. And let me jump into this intro, man. My guest is a Haitian-American Brooklyn native who moved to Los Angeles in 2016. Frustrated by the lack of podcasts specifically focused on real estate investors, he took matters into his own hand and started a Black real estate dialogue in 2019. The show quickly gained following thanks to Sam's engaging interviews with successful Black real estate investors, developers from around the country. A challenge he faced early on was not having enough money to buy his first property, which forced him to get creative and find alternative financing options. With his ingenuity, hard work, Sam has begun building a portfolio of single-family homes in the Midwest. 2023, his hard work paid off when the Black Real Estate Dialogue was nominated for a prestigious Webby Award. For you guys don't know, that's a big award, everybody, the Webby Award, the internet's highest honor for creators. The show was a finalist for the best podcast in the category of diversity, equity, inclusion, cementing Sam's place as a leading voice in the Black real estate community. In addition to conducting interviews, Sam is responsible for all guest outreach, social media content, curating, event planning, partnership, developing for the show. With growing real estate portfolio of his own, Sam is dedicated to inspiring others through his work on the Black Real Estate Dialect podcast. Again, dope individual, Sam Dolciné. Make sure I get that right, man. I appreciate you for hopping on the show, man. And get off top, props to you, bro. I know it
Thank you.
wasn't hard getting started with that, especially in the world of investment in real estate, where us as a people, we really behind the 8 ball as far as the information, knowledge, to get up and do. It's not an easy thing to do, man. So shout out to you for the early, get out the way, give your flowers early, man, for making the progress. The awards, great. Black business feature, that's definitely dope, man. Definitely something. Somebody looks like me doing something that's definitely, you know what I mean. I guess show your props, man, and keep up the hard work, man, because I know it's not easy.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I really do. Thank you for having me, man. And looking forward to the conversation and hopefully I'm able to add some value.
Yeah, definitely, man. Again, shout out to you for us. I know just linked up. I mean, that's one plus of social media now.
Yep.
Seen it a while ago. It's been over. I mean, it's been months now. I'm just watching and like, you know, man, okay, he's giving some gems out, but also he's intentional. He's definitely understanding. He's knowledgeable, but also you're like, man, this is why I'm doing it. You know, it's not a work thing for you. This is very important. It's serious, and you're also like you stand firm in what you say and what you believe in this field. So I'm like, you know what, for me, it's more so. Yes, people say you got to read and stuff too, but now it's blessed to listen and watch. I would say I'm more of a listening and watcher sometimes, and I read as much as I should. But to hear and see somebody, I'm like, okay, now I can watch this guy. Okay, now I can learn this way, man. So I definitely appreciate you. And again, we would, daily schedules would be different, and we finally locked it in, man. So I appreciate you, man. But before we get too much into real estate, though, man, let's talk about the upbringing. You know, what I'm saying Haitian from the East Coast, man. Because even that in itself is defying odds, right?
hmm
Parents, give me a little bit about your background, upbringing, a little bit like that.
Yeah. So born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So went through all through high school there, went to college out in Western New York. And my parents are both immigrants. So my mom came from Haiti when in the 70s, early 70s. She's probably about like 7 years old. And my dad came in the late 80s when he was almost 30. And so humble beginnings for them both, Haiti is they both grew up extremely poor. And my mother's mom brought her over here and her 7 or 8 siblings just
Mm.
for a better life. And my dad came out to try to get a better life as well. And so upbringing was cool. I have 2 other sisters. So my upbringing was cool. We had everything we needed. We didn't really know what the financial problems that were taking place were until we were much older, but we had everything we needed. We didn't really go without. We had our ups and downs, but I'm thankful for my upbringing. It's most people don't have both parents in the home, and I was very thankful and blessed to have had that. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, upbringing was cool. Like growing up in Brooklyn was a lot of fun. Growing up in the city, I wouldn't have wanted to be raised anywhere else. I played basketball up through high school, so that's pretty much all I did up through that point. But yeah, growing up in New York City was absolutely amazing. I loved it. just the culture and everything, man. I miss it. I miss it a lot sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I had a fun childhood, man. I really enjoyed it.
That's what's up. You talk about in New East Coast, New York. You mentioned the game basketball, so I don't know if I should ask like they're asking, but what was the fan team favorite growing up, man? People, I
Yeah.
mean, you in the gym playing too, so I mean, I know you had a lot of stars to mimic my game after. What were some people or some teams you was like locked in with?
Yeah. So you know what's funny? I was a Knicks fan until I was about 9. So I was a Knicks fan until about 99.
Okay,
And they lost to the Spurs in the finals.
in the final.
And it's funny. I was so disappointed. Everybody was so disappointed in New York because we hadn't been to that point in a long time. And I pick up a book and I discover a guy named Kobe Bryant, and I was hooked. I became a Laker fan at that moment. So it's funny. I grew up a Laker fan most of my life,
Okay.
and Kobe Bryant was like always my favorite player. And then as I got older, Steph Curry was, and he's still currently my favorite player from the Davidson days. Like it's funny. Most people don't know this, but I have a bunch of, I used to collect newspaper clippings. I still have a lot. So I have a bunch of newspaper clippings from when Steph Curry was at Davidson. I was like following him along while I was in high school and stuff. So yeah, but you know, growing up in the city was playing basketball was incredible. I was a decent player, but it was cool to just be able to play with so many great players who went on to do great things, you know, in college and stuff like that. But I mean, everything you hear about city basketball is true.
Yeah.
You know, it's very competitive. And, you know, I was, like I said, I was decent, but it was great to play against and be around players who were just amazing.
Did you ever get a chance to see Kobe live?
I did. So in what year was it? 2016. I saw him play in his last season. I actually got to see the Warriors play as well. So I went to the Bay. I saw, and I think that's when they were 73-9. So I went to the Bay and I saw the Warriors versus the Thunder. And then I flew down to LA and I saw the Lakers versus the Warriors. And the Lakers were terrible that year, but they beat the Warriors that game. And so it was crazy. I got to see Kobe, and it was an experience I always cherish, man. I mean, and I was by myself. I'm like, yo, if I got to go by myself, I'm going. I have to see him play in this last season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an amazing experience, man. Yeah, I was glad to see him play. And it's funny, I was thinking about his last game when he scored 50. I think they played the Jazz, and I just remember going crazy the whole game.
It was different, man. If you're a basketball head, you know, like I'm going out with a 50 piece. Like, at this age, hurting, you know, Kobe like he was hurting, body was hurting, but he still was like cold, right? Like you knew that's how you want to ride out. That's how you want to go out, man.
Exactly, man.
You talked about parents coming over, making a way, survival. How was the early outside of the sports room? What was education like in the household for you? Was it like, you know, different upbringings, people, you know, different nationalities, some, you know, focus is different. Was it okay, we're in these books first before we do any basketball stuff, or it was like, okay, you're gonna do, you know, maintain both, be consistent? But what was that like?
Yeah, so my parents definitely wanted us to do well in school. I would say above all that, like we were in church all the time. So church was, our faith was big, you know, as Christians growing up. So that was big for us. And then education too, like they wanted us to do the best we could. I mean, they pushed us, they encouraged us. You know, sometimes I think I put a good effort into school as a kid. I think I could have put more effort into school as a kid, but they always wanted us to do good. They were always telling us we're going to college and things like that. So we got a lot of that reinforcement, and the expectation was like, you're going to school, which I appreciate because not everybody has that where they grow up. And so, you know, as far as the household, it was cool. Like they were encouraging us and just doing the best they could with what they knew to, you know, push us onto the right path. And so as far as like the home, education was very important, and a priority, and they wanted us to just go further than they did. So, you know, I definitely appreciate that.
Nice. Going through school, college out there, what decide after you graduate, get older, like, I mean, as adult life, what made you decide to make this? Because East Coast, West Coast shift is not always, and I would say it might be easier, maybe coming from there. A lot of people don't move from West Coast to East Coast unless major instances because, you know, they think weather out here, whatever. But what was a major influence, man? Like what kind of played the part? Okay, you know what, it's not, you're not 1-2 states over. You jumped total to 3 3 hour time zone difference.
Yeah. So by far the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. Um, I all right. So growing up, I just assumed I would just be in New York for the rest of my life. I didn't have a problem with that. And my 9 to 5 background is in the HR area. So I got a job opportunity in 2016 to move out here. And I'm like, you know what? I visited a few times. It's cool. Like I never thought I would move, but I'm like, let me just try it out. If I hate it, I'll just go back home. And so I just decided to come out here. I knew maybe 1 or 2 people who I went to school with who somehow ended up out here. Um, and I just moved out. The transition was really hard, to be honest with you, man, because imagine you are starting your life fresh from zero, literally. And it's different when you're going to college, right? Because when you go into college or school or something, you already inherit a group of people who are going through the same thing you're going through to some degree. But when you just dropped into the real world and you are starting from zero, it was very hard, man. Like that first year or two is extremely lonely because you're trying to make friends and trying to meet people. And it probably took me, I would say, 3 years or so to really feel comfortable and build community and stuff like that. There was one point when during the pandemic, when I did think about moving back, I spent about maybe 3 months, 4 months at home, just working remotely back in New York. And I thought for a split second about moving back, and then I just ended up coming back. But it was tough, man. It was tough. I think if anyone has an opportunity to try to leave your hometown, even for a little bit, even if it's temporary and you go back just to experience something, I definitely grew a lot. I definitely matured a lot. And yeah, those early days were tough. I'm not going to lie to you because it's like a fish out of water. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know anything, right? You don't have anybody to really show you around like that. So it was tough, man. It was really tough.
And you moved right to LA. Is that where you're at?
Right to LA.
Yep. Oh yes. You weren't even the small little, we got some smaller cities in California like LA. You moved to the big one. So I know it was busy for sure. And then not knowing what's going on, everything looked different, man. Yeah. At what point how long has real estate been something you've been either interested in or had in just information or want to get into? Because it's not like 2019 and not that far long ago. So I mean, like, to get where you are now, has this been something you've always kind of had an interest in or kind of studied or what?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So it's been a passing thought over the years, but about 5 years ago, I hit a moment. And what I mean by that is I was at work, and for some reason, something told me to look at my retirement plan. And I'm like, whatever, let me check this thing out. I don't know why I'm thinking about it, but let me look at it. So you're able to see the balance in there, right? So the next thing that I was able to see was they were able to project out what you might have when it's time to retire. So I'm like, all right, let me see what the number is. The third thing is they had something where you could put in, all right, I want to live off of X dollars or whatever. And I'm okay. I was like, I put the number in and I realized it wasn't going to last that long. So I'm like, wait a minute, I need to figure out another way to make money outside of the job. And so I heard about real estate. I'm like, well, real estate, that seems to be a way people make money over time. Let me see if I could do it. And so I reached out to the real estate person I knew in town, and he's like, all right, fill out the spreadsheet of your financials, whatever the case is. And so I did that. And he's like, all right, well, maybe you can get a condo, but you know, your DTI is your debt to income ratio is too high. There's not really much you can do. So I'm like, okay, let me figure something else out. And so I'm just researching. I'm like, wait a minute. I discovered people were investing out of state. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that. Because when we grew up, we lived in a multi-unit apartment and the landlord was just right next door. Right. So I didn't even know you could do that. So I spent about 12 months just researching everything I could about investing out of state. And about a year later, I was able to do that. And then around the same time, I also was like listening to podcasts, listening to everything I could to learn about real estate. And I realized that there wasn't a central place to listen to Black people who are doing it. I tried to look up in the apps and all that stuff. I couldn't find anything. And so I told my friend, what if I started a show? What if I started a podcast about this? He's like, yeah, go ahead and do it. And so that was kind of how both of those things really started at the same time. Just trying to find information from people I could relate to. I couldn't find it, and my friend agreed with my crazy idea to try to do it and be that platform for us. So here we are today.
Yeah, that's definitely dope. And as you know, starting out though, what was, of course, no, we all in the highlighted time of our life. Everything's highlighted quick. The quick glory. What were some of the struggles of getting started? I mean, because I know some my own separate ones, or you have yours. What are some things that you may say? Well, just getting off the ground, because it's like even getting that first one that you feel I want to put out to everybody off the ground is hard enough. But now people say, man, just put it out. But it's like, so it's kind of like just give them content, or like, no, I got standards. But what type of struggles you may have run into, or kind of walls you have to overcome to get going, and then, as they say, really be consistent, right? Because I'm hearing that word a lot. They're like, man, you can just keep going. Man, you got how many out? Just keep doing. I'm like, okay, all right. Sometimes it gets a little tired. Hey, man, I heard that one. Just keep going. Okay, I can get another one out. But give me a little bit about that.
Yeah, good. I've actually never been asked that question. So I would say, thank you for that. I would say the first thing is I didn't know how to use social media. So I was kind of off social media for a few years prior to having that idea. So I'm like, all right, I got the name. I guess I need to start putting stuff online now. So I didn't really know how to post stuff. So if someone is bored and wants to scroll all the way back to like my stuff, I was doing like, it just looked terrible, quite frankly. And so that was the first challenge. I didn't really understand how to use social media, and it took a long time to figure that out. And the second thing is the technology piece. Like I did a lot of research. Like I was using a Blue Yeti mic at the time. I was just recording on Zoom at the time. So I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly. And I was recording on Zoom until this year. Pretty much everything's been in person. I got better equipment. And so I've just had to learn over the years different types of equipment, like ask people questions, look up stuff online, and just try to improve things over and over. But I think for me, the biggest challenge initially was just the technology piece. And also like, I guess I didn't think about it as much, but I need to get people to agree to be on this show. And funny enough, I did get a lot of interest. Like a lot of people responded or were interested in being on. And so, that was encouraging in the beginning. But yeah, I'd say those challenges, and just like I just didn't know anything about the space at all.
Yeah.
Anything. I was brand new to the space of podcasting, brand new to the space of this Black wealth movement that was happening online. Like, so it was kind of overwhelming at the time, if I'm being honest with you. But I knew one thing. I knew that I wanted to get this information out there. I knew that our community needed this information. And so that has been my driving force from then. Like it's, as you mentioned earlier in the interview, it's extremely difficult. Like maybe people might see the end product, but there's a lot that goes into it. But it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to hear the testimonials. It's very rewarding to give folks a platform. My greatest pleasure is when I'm able to have an episode with somebody who's doing amazing things, but has never had a platform to share it, who's never been on a podcast to share their story, to share the strategies and all those things. So, it's very rewarding, man. It's very rewarding. But those were some of the challenges that I experienced early on, and I still got a lot of challenges today, which I'm happy to talk about. But yeah, starting off, those are some of the challenges.
And I think one of the biggest ones too, people don't realize the financial investment. You got to put your own money up.
Yep.
If you want to do stuff better, you want to upgrade or get a better streaming or better microphone, better lighting, you got to pay for that until somebody either, get that to that level. That's coming out of your pocket. So that daytime check is going to this to make that money. And that, then they got to fight that battle. You pull money from here, pay for something that ain't making money yet. You know what I mean? So that's something people definitely got to take consideration who are trying to get in the space or get involved or start their own create theirs. The investment you got to put in financially too is there. It's
definitely
there. If you want to go on these platforms, right? Certain ones have certain limitations. All of them ain't free, stuff like that. So as you get into this space, as far as getting people on your show, information, I'm pretty sure you can remember. What was your first show like? What was that like for you?
Man, so it's so funny you mentioned that. It was the Nelsons. Is a couple out of DC. They were my first ever guest. And I think I just found them on Instagram. I was just trying to look for people on Instagram. I found them on Instagram and they agreed to be my first guest. I remember I was living in Inglewood at the time, which is right outside of LA for those who know. And my apartment was probably 275 square feet, tiny apartment. I remember I was at my desk. I had my laptop just here. I had my Blue Yeti mic, but that probably didn't have the right settings. And it was a Sunday, and I interviewed them. There were some tech issues because my internet was garbage, but I was like, you know what? I'm putting it out anyway. But they were great. They were, they still support me to this day. But I remember having like my questions all written out and stuff. And I should probably listen to that. I think I listened to it some time ago. I was really nervous. I'd never done it before, of course. And yeah, those were my first guest. And that was maybe like October 2019. So we're actually almost
coming
at
up
a year. Goodness. So
no
yeah, that was my first episode.
years 23 now, so you got years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. 4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so. What episode are we working on now? Like, where you are right now? Because I mean, 4 years, man. I know you got something. You got a catalog over there.
Yeah. So I believe this week was 190, if I'm not mistaken.
Dope.
Yes, it's crazy.
190. And you're doing the editing, the recording, if the ones that are live right now yourself too. How frustrating sometimes does it get for you? Are you a critique or like, I want to get it, I gotta have it right? Or are you gonna like cut it or try it multiple times? Or you're like, no, what? I don't got it, but I'm gonna put it out there. Or you kind of find what's best for you and what the show consists of?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a editor who helps me out a bit. Nice. Actually, he helps me out quite a lot. So I have an editor who I work with. As far as the episodes themselves, I edit them minimally, honestly. Like, there are times when somebody like fumbled their words or something like that, and we'll cut that out. But I generally just go straight through. I have my plan and what I want to talk about and how I want the interview to go. But generally, I don't really edit the episodes too much. So when I'm in LA, like if a guest of mine happens to be in LA, there's a studio that I record out of, they're pretty good. The content is really high quality, fair pricing.
Yeah, visuals dope, man. Yeah, I see the visuals. Yeah, definitely dope. And live show that content or that space it's changed the game, man. Like I said, I know now we're doing via Zoom, but I was doing in Sacafutes for a lot of episodes. It's just people coming in there like, oh man, because via the screen it looks one way till you walk inside it, like, oh, this is really dope. You see the lights and stuff. So that's a goal of mine too, to set up a live location too, man, and have some live shows. I don't mind via Zoom because time, whatever we can do stuff, you can get it done quick or spare the moment. But also that live setting is different, man. It's a dope thing.
Man, I agree with that. To be honest with you, it changed the game for me because so last year I did last year I did 3 in-person interviews. This year I'm like, all right, I'm going to commit to do in-person interviews. I've done more solo episodes this year as well, but I'm going to commit if I have a guest to do in-person interviews. So, a lot of those have been in LA. I was at a conference in New Orleans and I did, I think 3 while I was there. I did 4 in New York when I was in New York last month, and I'll be in New Orleans in a couple of weeks. I'm going to do 2, maybe 3, but from a relationship building standpoint, it changed everything.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't, like, there are people who I've built relationships with from the in-person events, from the in-person interview, excuse me, because you get to actually interact with the person, you get to like shake their hand, you get to really feel them, right? And they get to feel you too, and to vibe with you too. So I think from a relationship building standpoint, it has been great. I mean, obviously you're not going to become friends with everybody, but there's a handful of people who I've been able to build relationships with, and I know that a big part of that was being able to be in person. Now, it makes it harder because there's more scheduling, there's more coordination, obviously financial investment, but it's crazy. Somehow I've been able to keep it up throughout the year, which has been a blessing. But yeah, it changes the game, and it makes me step my game up because I'm like, all right, I'm paying for this. So I need to be on point so I can get my money's worth, and this could be a good interview.
Yeah, for sure. Man, the shirt says real estate investment. This is what this is what they look like, man. Thanks for seeing this dope shirt. Got another one over here too. But even this thing in itself is kind of like, hey, we can be a real estate investor. Like I can have real estate. We can have real estate. Something that we probably weren't taught at an early on age. We don't see on TV. We didn't see it in the movies like that. Ownership of land and property, right? But it speaks for itself, and it's black. The shirt is black, right? It's enough. But your thought behind putting this on a shirt, man?
Yeah. So I got to give credit to my wife. We were brainstorming different ideas, what could go on shirts and stuff like that. And this is one of the terms that she actually might have came up with it. That we came up with. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for anyone who has the shirt, who purchases a shirt, like it's symbolic, right? Like anybody can invest in real estate. Obviously, there's a lot of hardships. There's a lot of societal things that make many things in our lives and in the lives of others difficult, and it's still possible, right? It's just a matter of having the right information, putting a plan and a strategy together. It might take some longer than others, but it's possible. It's possible. So it's really just like an encouragement to people that it can happen for you. It can happen for you if you have the right information, if you can put a plan together, if you can be patient. It can happen for you, and you may just have to get a little bit uncomfortable to make that happen.
True, very true. And speaking of uncomfortable, right? Let's get into a little bit of uncomfortable conversations maybe, or how do you initially come if people were saying they want to hear some information from you, right? Or just get information or gain information about real estate. But also, as we know, right, we're a little hesitant. Like, man, I don't want you to make me feel bad because I didn't make bad moves or I don't have the financials. But how do those conversations start? How do you initiate those conversations with people ultimately who you're trying to help, but I gotta give them the real. I gotta keep it a stack with them. Like, hey, look, this ain't gonna work. Or how do those conversations literally like generate from ground zero?
Yeah, that is a good question. So one, I think it's important to meet people where they are. And what I mean by that is, you know, everybody is at a certain place with their knowledge. Everybody is at a certain place with their finances and things of that nature. So I think the first thing is meeting people where they are. And, I think on the flip side, somebody who is receiving the information, be open, right? Be open because there's a lot that we all don't know. So from the conversation perspective, I like to just hear people out, see, if it's a family member or a friend, like, what are your interests? Like, what do you want to do? Did you know about certain programs? Have you considered this kind of investment? So I think it's a big thing is like meeting people where they are, hearing them out. I try not to be too preachy with people. I don't think you can give people more than they want, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So like, for example, like I'm big in real estate, right? Like I read this stuff every single day. I'm reading articles and all this stuff, right? I don't push that on people around me. Like I don't push that on my family. I don't push that on my friends. Like when I'm around them, I'm just chilling. If they ask, hey, I will tell you everything. I'll give you all the feedback you might want. But I don't push it on. I don't pressure it on anybody. If they want it, they can have it. I'm an open book. So that's kind of how I approach it. I have been preachy. It doesn't work. So you can't you could take somebody to the water. It's cliche. You can't
Right.
make them drink,
For
right?
sure.
So eh, you can come to the water. I'll give you a drink. I have no problem doing that, but you have to want it. I can't want it more than you. And
Right.
and whenever you want something more for somebody than they want for themselves, it's a waste of time. So everybody has their time when they'll be ready to receive certain information. Some people will never get to that place, and that's okay. So that's kind of how I approach it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. So what are some of you feel like some of the, biggest, it's probably a lot, right? But if you were giving somebody advice about or suggestions or information, what would be like the first one or two things you would tell or suggest to um, anybody who's coming to get advice for your information or just want to learn and start getting on the right way or trending the right way to make something happen as far as the investment or ownership of properties or land or house? What would kind of be the first couple of things you would give to them? Like, okay, if you don't take anything away from here, at least take this.
Yes, definitely. So the first thing I would say is look into the NACA program, and the NACA program is zero down payment, zero closing cost. There's a lot of fees they don't make you pay. There are some restrictions. I believe you have to live in the property, and things of that nature. So I would say look into that. They have different workshops and stuff in various cities. And so that's the first thing I would say. Look into that. See if you're interested. See if you can fulfill the requirements. Like go to one. I think they have meetings and stuff, or you can talk to a counselor. I would say look at that first. The second thing I would say is to consider an FHA loan. FHA loan you can put down as little as 3.5% on a property. And so you may want to get pre-qualified or talk to a mortgage person to just get an idea of what you might be able to afford. And so that's the first thing. And for those who feel that it's too expensive where they live, which is the reality for a lot of people,
Especially
especially in California, those two things would be a good start. If you are open to being a little uncomfortable, if there's family members that you can deal with, perhaps you can go in together. If you buy let's say a multi-unit property, you live in this side, the family member lives on the other side, and you just jointly pay the mortgage together. I think that is a great way. If sometimes it takes more than one person to be able to qualify for a property, so that might be something to consider. If it's something that doesn't disrupt your life too much, perhaps if you can move a little bit further where it's a little cheaper in your general area, that's something to look into. And you may need to consider moving. It's a hard thing, I get it. But for many, like it might take leaving your region completely to be able to buy a home and to be able to improve your quality of life. And again, it's not easy. We have ties where we're from and things of that nature, but it may be a sacrifice to consider if you want to buy a house, whether it be investment or whether it be where you live. Now, if you want to stay where you live, perhaps consider buying investment properties out of state. That's something else to consider. So, there are multiple ways to go about it. There are multiple ways to approach it. But if I'm just meeting somebody, I would give them those things to consider and to look at. And then hopefully they decide to pursue one and figure out which one of those works best for them. It's possible, like I said before, you just may have to get uncomfortable. You may have to make some sacrifices to make it happen.
And I was going to ask that too. How often in these conversations do you get a lot of people that come back for more information, or people who kind of like, okay, thanks, and never come back to you? Kind of, what is that? Is it like a little bit of both, one-sided, kind of people just don't come back because they're afraid of it, or what's that look like as far as the people that want to, like, okay, like, all right, I need more. Let me get to this point where I need some assistance. Let me keep going.
That's a good question. I would say it depends. Like some folks, with one piece of information, they can just, go on their own and research and figure out what to do next. Others, it's like an ongoing conversation. So, for me, like that's what I'm here for. Like those folks who I know personally, like I'm happy to help you. If there's any questions I can answer or resources I can point you to. And, that's a big part of like why I do the show, right? Like if somebody wants to learn about any particular topic in real estate, odds are I have one, if not several episodes about that thing. So you can get that information from whoever I'm talking to, or from me if I'm on by myself. But I would say as far as people coming back, it's a mix, right? And again, I don't force anything on anybody. I'm here. Like I said, I'll give you a drink if you want to come over to the water. If that's what you want, let's do it.
You said 179, right? Almost one, something like that, or 200.
This week was 190.
190. Yeah, let's shortchange it. I know it's hard work.
It's
So
all right.
a lot of content there to cover, especially at a scroll of a button, right? Or go back and recall. And while we're talking about this, though, I see you got it on the thing, but let everybody know where they can find the content at right now. Since you're kind of there at that level, I think it's a good time, man. Let's get the information out there right now. So put the socials out there, whatever you got, man. Let us know where they can find it at for sure.
Yes. So on social, it's Black Real Estate Dialogue. I'm most active on Instagram, so that'll be the best place to follow and check out content. And if you want to check the show out, just go to Black Real Estate Dialogue. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube. And if you're interested in any type of resources or just want to learn some more information, you can go to blackrealestatedialogue.com.
So to get a award, man, like what was that? When you started this thing, I don't know, it could have been in your checklist, could be on your goals list, but to get nominated and to receive an award for what you're doing and what information you're providing. What was that feeling like for you?
Yeah. So, it's funny. I didn't even know that kind of stuff existed until they reached out to me to submit myself to be nominated. And so, they recommended the particular category. And for me, just looking at the other nominees and just learning more about what exactly the Webby Awards are, I'm like, wow, like this is really cool. Like it felt good just to get the work recognized. And I have a plaque over there. I'm not going to make noise and get it. I would love to grab it, but it was great. It was great. Of course, I wish I won, but it was just amazing to even be nominated. Yeah, it felt good. It felt good, and I actually won. I haven't updated the bio, but I think I found out last week that I won what's called a Plutus Award.
Okay.
For best real estate content. I think the Plutus Award is similarly for like creators and stuff. So it's cool. It's cool. When I started, I didn't know so much of what's happened since I started, I didn't even know existed. And so it's just opened up a tremendous door of opportunity for me, of course, like for our community. So it's just icing on the cake because I didn't aim for winning anything when I started out. I was just trying to provide some information for a community who needs it. So it feels good. It definitely feels good.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't, like I said, it was different purpose, but you got to different. It's good to be acknowledged. We'll say that, for the work that you're putting in. I mean, I definitely can attest to that. Just be honest, but definitely, I mean, if you started out knowing you just want to help people, man, or get information out there, and for somebody to come throw you something to you, or applaud you, or show you appreciation, man, that's definitely dope. But also, it means the work has been doing is being received by somebody. Somebody's listening, right? Somebody's like, oh, I can benefit from that, or it's helped me, or I learned a little bit better from somebody who looked like me, and it's working, man. So I would say that's definitely a big ups to you, man, what you're doing.
Thank you.
As far as that aspect goes, though, man, for this this realm of work, has there been major other struggles that you may say at some point in time you may have thought I may want to do something else, or this may not work? Because I mean, like I said, we talk about the successes, but anything you may want to make sure, like, you know what, I struggled at this, I had to readjust, or I was at a point in time where I had to really think about, I may want to put this content down, I may want to give this up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm human, right? And so I'd be lying if I told you there weren't moments when I was very discouraged. And I'll be honest with you, like, there are a lot of hurt people online. And people say, I've had some crazy stuff said to me. I'll just say that by all types of people. And I try not to take it too personally, but sometimes it's hard. I'll just be honest with you. And just the comments some people sometimes that are made, it's just crazy. Like, for example, a faceless person like emailed me, called me the N-word and all this stuff in relation to my platform. People have DM'd me crazy stuff. People have commented crazy stuff underneath posts because they don't agree. And here, I'm a very fair person, right? Yeah. I create environments for people to engage in dialogue, right? So whether it's under a post, like I'm never looking for agreement. I actually appreciate folks who don't agree because we can have a dialogue. We can have a conversation. Like people can learn
for sure
from one another. So it's like sometimes I think people forget that the person you're looking at on a show or on Instagram is actually a person, like a person. It's not just some like computer AI made person, right? So, I try not to take things too personally, and sometimes it's hard. I'll just admit that. So a lot of times, like I get a lot of positive feedback, more positive than negative, but sometimes some of the things people say are like really crazy. But that is the cost of being somebody who's putting themselves out there. Like everyone's not going to love you and everyone shouldn't, that's just not reality. Hey, I guess it pays to be polarizing sometimes. But I try to let that roll off my back. But I would say, I don't even remember the question you asked. I think you asked about challenges.
Just something like that, but I mean, not alone, right? That we're state now where I guess, I mean, I wouldn't say everything's mental health, but just the communication, right? If it's not communicated effectively, it can throw us off our game, man. It could deter what we want to do. It kind of dampers what we want to do, knowing we have fun at this, or knowing we're engaging, or knowing what my purpose is. But now it's like, man, it's not fun because you guys, throwing the stones at me. But
Yeah.
everyone's not gonna like it, like you said. Even if it's this, they could do it different ways. I mean, I was even in HR for a while, and that just wasn't for me. Though. I was like, I'm not an HR dude. I talk too much. I like to hang out. I mean, intermix. They want me to sit in the cubicle. I was like, nah, I got to get back active or do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I mean, that's real enough in itself, though, man. Those you never know what could come at you, but also the people may not know unless people like post it publicly. But the messages you get, everybody don't know what comes to your phone or what you get on your email and say, man, like really, like I'm just trying to help people. I'm trying to give out information, but you want to, so, and that itself can be deterring and stop you from keep going. But you obviously kept going, man. You're almost pushing 200, man. That's a definitely dope number. And I didn't realize too, people like my boys, like, man, you got the 50, celebrate that win. 50 episodes, celebrate that win. You got 100, celebrate that win. I was like, oh, okay. Like, no, it is. Because he said some people don't make it past 10 or 20. And I was like, okay, all right, so, okay, I see now. I get a little bit. So no matter what, if keep going. So I definitely, again, man, it should be celebrated, but also, yeah, they come with the territory. They're going to stay stuff, move in different ways, but also, that's not my goal to help everybody. Wish I could. If you can just reach one, right?
Yep.
If you can reach one, you know what I mean? So I definitely see that. So at the end of all my shows, though, man, in basketball, as you men, we call triple threat, where you can dribble, pass, or shoot the ball, right? But here, we want your personal triple threat, right? 3 things that yourself, you can, anybody listening, new viewers, old viewers, you'll have a little bit of both, that they want to know if they know Sam personally, though, right? What does he kind of hold his head by? How does he walk by? 3 things that you can put your stamp on. That's your personal triple threat right now.
My personal triple threat, man. Wow, you asked some good questions, man. So can you repeat it? Sorry.
So like 3 things, like let's say basketball, you dribble, pass, shoot, you can do 3 things with the ball. But in life, like give me 3 things they say that people may know you by, or kind of hold your head by, or when they come on your show, Sam, give me this, or just how you operate, in life as a person individually, man. Say, no, you know what? Oh, yep, that's Sam, that's him.
Yep. So consistency is the first one. Kindness is the second one. And firm in my beliefs. Like I'm a very nice person, and I'm also very opinionated, like I can't help it, I love debating with my friends, and that's just what it is. Like, it's all love. So I would say those 3 things.
That's what's up, man. Appreciate you. Shout out the information, the socials one more time, man. Get them out there. Make sure y'all tune in to them. Tap in, follow the show, get some information. Hit them up if you need to, man. Got some gems out there, but I'm letting them shout out the information one more time.
Thanks again for that. So if you want to follow me on Instagram at Black Real Estate Dialogue, if you want to listen to the show, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Go to Black Real Estate Dialogue. And if you want some information, some resources, go to blackrealestatedialogue.com.
And y'all definitely make sure when I put the episodes up, the teasers, the episode, all that stuff will be in the bios on the Instagram, Facebook stuff as well. If you got to tap in, that's one thing we can tell between both our platforms is resources. Find some gems, take them, use them, tap in with somebody. Hope y'all learn something or get more information, gather more information from the guests that are on my show, his show. That's what it's for, right? So it's for you guys to tap in. So please use it. If not, we're doing it for nothing. So we want to make sure y'all get there and tap in. You heard it here first with Sam and Coach JT on 94FeetWithCoachJT. Appreciate your time, my guy.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.